All right. So is everyone ready, actually? She doesn't have headphones, but I'll call that out. Yeah, that water, I just brought that water in just for you.
Thank you.
It's not vodka or anything.
Hope not.
So that's it. Are we ready to go? STAK Ventures is transforming real estate into full stack ecosystem solutions for the East Bay residency and global startups, backed by Barrington Capital. Located in the heart of Uptown Oakland at 1900 Broadway and 1950 Franklin, STAK Space has 2 towers and a data center with 1.5 million square feet of luxury living, event space, resort-style amenities, EV mobility, office space, and access to one of the biggest startup ecosystems in the Bay Area. Check out stackspace.com. That's STAK, stackspace.com for more information. We'll see you soon. Welcome to STAK Ventures Podcast, where founders, investors, and innovators come together to explore what it really takes to build and scale great companies. My name is Brian Sparks, and I want to welcome everybody to the show. Once again, I have 2 amazing guests with me, and I got the entire crew in the background. Everyone say hi. I don't know if you're all on there. Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work, but excited to talk with you guys today. Welcome to episode 2, right? 1A, 2. I don't know what we're going to call it yet, but let's have fun with it. Give a little intro. We'll start with you, Michelle, on what you're working on, and let the millions and millions of fans know who you are. And then Martin, will pass it to you.
Very excited to be here. Michelle Dhansinghani Limon. I'm a vice president of investments.
Let's get you into that microphone. Yeah.
Cherry Rock Capital. It is a $172 million Series A and B fund that invests in underrepresented founders at the intersection of data, relationships, and trust. And so this is actually the largest debut fund raised by a Black woman. So I work alongside Stacey Brown Philpott, who was the CEO of TaskRabbit that grew that business from $1 to $100 million and then sold it to IKEA. So she understands a little bit of what
she gets it. Yeah. Okay.
To scale a company. Outside of my day job, I also run a community called VC Unleashed, focused on bringing more Black and brown folks into venture capital. That community has over 1,500 members. We just had our big annual conference a couple of weeks ago in Oakland. I'm also a proud resident of Oakland. And
shout out to the town.
Yeah, shout out. So I've spent a lot of time here at Stacks. And then most recently did a Coding Capital hackathon here.
Nice. We got rock stars. And you and I haven't met before.
No, this is our first time, so I'm so excited about that.
That's crazy. Like you've been here, you've come through STAK, you're building a great community, got a great fund, there's a lot of stories. So I'm excited to learn more about you. Thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
This is going to be fun. Martin.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a debrief call between us 3 because I think we have like 3 community builders here.
Yeah, so, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, so quick intro about myself. I'm Martin Lima, originally from Brazil, but living in the Bay for the past 3 years. For the past 9 years, I've been working in venture capital in Brazil. Between Brazil and the US, we raised the largest deep tech fund in Latin America with Qualcomm Ventures, Motorola, and some other corporate investors. So always close to corporate investors, but I'm also a community builder myself. So I started Emerging VC Fellows, which started as a WhatsApp group, but grew to 500 members, 200 different funds where we connect analysts, associates, and VCs, all sorts of VCs in the region. And for the past 3 years, I've been living in the Bay. Came for my MBA here, and worked a little bit with VC, but most recently in the past 3 months, I've been working with Cubo, which is an initiative by Itaú. Itaú is the largest bank in LATAM. So I like to say that I pivoted from a 5-people company, a small VC, to a 90,000, big company in Brazil, which is Itaú. And now I'm doing scouting. So I'm helping Cubo connect, founders here in the Bay with Brazil and Latin America.
What kind of companies are you looking at?
I'm looking into fintech, dev tools, and AI quite broadly. So cybersecurity as well. So because it's a big bank, gotta meet those standards.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of activity right now, especially as you think of AI agents being brought into corporations from like pilots to productions. and there's no real framework. So I feel like cybersecurity is such an important topic.
Have you guys read news from yesterday, actually?
Oh, give us the scoop.
One agent went rogue. So Hugging Face.
Yes.
Yeah.
OpenAI?
Exactly.
Yes.
So they were testing this, benchmarking this new model. And then the agent was inside this very tight sandbox that they thought, and the agent was being tested. So to pass the test, the agent decided to break the rules, get outside of the sandbox, find some other models and weights in Hugging Face. I might be butchering everything that happened, but basically the agent went rogue and exited the
So there's a
sandbox
prison
as well.
break, essentially, what you were saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, just for our audience really quick, I kind of want to add something to what Martin was saying for clarity purposes. You and I were talking before the show, and I know a lot of you out there who have startups, you're looking for corporate partnerships. Martin's going to talk a little bit about what that looks like, because that's really the space that you're in now, looking for those potential startups that could be a good fit for your corporations, right?
Yeah.
So I know those of you who have lived in the Bay Area for a long time are familiar with Plug and Play. They have a similar model, and you are always looking for those advantages for partnerships. So we'll unpack that in a little bit.
One quick thing to add, I think this is like where investors really like earn their stripes. So outside of capital, which is often a commodity, how Cherry Rocks positions ourselves in the market is that one of the great things about Stacey Brown Philpott is she sits on the board of publicly traded companies, including HP and StockX. And so we like to make sure that we earn our rights on cap tables through introductions to corporate partners and helping with some of those important value propositions.
Okay, so that's going to be a very fun conversation. Yeah. Okay, we'll go into that. But I always love asking, in order to kind of loosen up the panel for our conversation. Both of you are very experienced in this space. You've sat in the startup ecosystem from multiple perspectives, funding startups, all that. But what is it that keeps you dug in? What keeps you leaning forward? Why do you love doing what you do? Michelle, I'll start with you.
So before being at Cherry Rock Capital, I used to be at a fund called Top Tier Capital Partners. They managed around $8 billion of capital, did fund-to-fund investing, growth investing in secondaries, mostly in the United States, but also activity in Europe. And so one of the things it gave me was kind of a God view of what is happening in the startup ecosystem, from the latest LLMs to understanding what the most important healthcare companies are. And even though I was in this like institutional seat, I don't know, our check sizes were anywhere from like $10 to $85 million, large check sizes. The thing that kept me and has continued to keep me in this ecosystem is like the love to be around people who are deeply passionate to build. And so it always goes back to the founders, right? Because you almost have to be a little bit crazy to believe that in 5 years you're going to build $1 billion business. To go against all odds and to continue to have grit and determination after enterprise partnerships fall through, after markets change, after markets become commoditized. And so oftentimes there are folks who I've met in the ecosystem. I think Ruben Harris, who is the founder of a company called Outrival AI, that does AI agents for university enrollments and insurance companies, who I sat on the board of. We got to lead his Series B. Someone like that who has so much grit and dedication to building a business, regardless of a market being commoditized, is the kind of folks that continue to keep me in this ecosystem.
Yeah, it's definitely the passion. You see that everywhere you go. It can almost become addictive, where you go to events and you meet people and it's like, well, I need to be building something. So no doubt that's a big driving factor to it. It's attracted me is the passion. And of course, then when you have a community around that, which you both have built really, really well, and we're going to dive into that first after Martin and I ask you the same question. What has gotten you falling in love with this startup ecosystem?
Yeah, I'm going to have to echo what Michelle said, because I remember when I was still in college, I went through engineering college, so I consider myself a builder from the start. Nowadays, it's much easier to start building, so I'm super excited about everything that I've been tinkering with AI. But since then, while still in college, I saw how hard it is to build something that people want and build a business from scratch. So this experience actually sparked me to go into venture capital, because I saw how dumb I was with like all my ideas that I thought could be a business, and actually, was all not great ideas.
Yeah.
So I decided to go into venture capital to learn more. And in venture capital, you end up talking to so many founders that, as you said, are kind of crazy. And you have to be a little bit insane to pursue a business with all your life. And I think also something that I'm really passionate about is my country. So being from Brazil, I think the Brazilian entrepreneurs, they have something that we're really hustlers. From the guys selling snacks on the beach to the tech entrepreneurs building global businesses. I think this is super exciting, and I honestly see technology as a tool to bridge the gap and solve a lot of problems that our country is facing.
And I think passion is so addictive.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the great communities are built. And you both have built great communities. Why have you put so much energy into building those communities? And this is for both of you.
Yeah.
Like, you both have done such a good job building these communities. But why put so much energy in bringing people together? Why? Because I really think it's a go-to-market strategy, and it's not necessarily going to market. It's almost like I've called it in the past. It's a give-to-market opportunity, where you're bringing these people together and you're giving them some sort of insight. You're giving them, again, the community, each other, which we need. Because even though there are solo entrepreneurs popping up and solo GPs popping up, we still need those resources. We still need others and good people to play with. So what drove you to really build what you're building now? And I'll just trot it out there, and either one of you.
I'd be curious to hear, especially, I think you targeted the market of like early stage or early career investors,
Yes,
which is like such a unique play, where I think I initially looked at how do you actually break into venture capital?
Yes.
So I'd be curious, like, why did you target that?
Good job, Michelle. I like that. Take control.
It's interesting.
I could talk hours about this, but in my case, it was really interesting because it was not super objective and proactive in terms of like, oh, there is a business opportunity in here. I want to do this, for myself because, I'm going to get something out of it. It's more, I think I have something that is very inherently that I like to do volunteer work. So I like to help people. And, because I went to engineering school and I had to pivot into VC, into finance, well, it was pretty hard,
Yes.
So my early career years were really hard, and the venture capital ecosystem was just starting in Brazil. So we consider ourselves basically the first generation of VC analysts, associates, and principals, because there's no other reference to use. So I think it happened really organically that we started creating this community where we help each other. So going back to being a volunteer and trying to help people, I had this pain myself, and then I try to build something to solve that. And I think also this resonates with like the founder life. Because in the end of the day, the best founders, you definitely see this in their eyes. Like they had a pain point, they suffered this pain point, and there's founder market fit. Where they had this pain point, and then they came to solve this.
Yeah. I heard. I don't know if I heard it in my own head or I heard you say it just now, but you said something to the point where you build the community where you rely on each other. What I heard was there's this opportunity in the early stages to pivot a lot easier if you have the community to bounce ideas off of, or even turn your ICP a little bit, and you have those people around you to kind of pull from. Did I hear you say that, or did I think that in my own head? But I'd never thought of that before. Do you think that is a factor? Or is like when you have this big pool of resources, it allows you to pivot a lot easier?
It is. And I think, honestly, recently it's been really hard for communities to, how can you still keep the community personal and keep the personal connections, even though like when you're building a community, you want it to have scale. So I'm actually curious, Michelle, how you handle it, because you gave some big numbers, but like how can you grow with still like keeping the personal touch to it?
Yeah, tap in.
That's really interesting, and I resonate a lot from your origin story, how you built your community. So a little bit about VC Unleashed. We've been around for 5 years now. It started when I was doing my MBA at Columbia Business School. I was the only Latina out of 650 people trying to do venture capital. So oftentimes that journey felt lonely. Oftentimes I was the only one. And so I remember having a conversation with a dear friend, Teek Chapa, who now helps run Google startup and venture partnerships. And I was like, Teak, am I the only one? He's like, no, you have to look up and you have to connect all of the other Black and brown folks in the ecosystem. So it basically started out as all the Ivy League MBAs, all the Black and Latino and underrepresented folks who are trying to break into venture capital. And very organically, like yours, started up as a WhatsApp channel. And then we're like, well, how do we teach each other to break into venture? Like, I remember my first interview for a venture capital firm and sharing my resume and giving my professional background. And I didn't realize that you had to come with 3 companies and break down those companies and why you would invest or why you wouldn't invest, right? Like there was an insider game that I didn't have the score, the instructions or like what the scorecard was. And so a lot of it was access, right? And the way that we've been able to continue to stay connected in a very real and authentic way is we hold these national conferences every year. So we just held one at the Kapor Center. Shout out to the Kapor Center, who was an incredible supporter and sponsor of our work.
That's just down the street, right?
Yeah, right down the street here in Oakland. There's been a lot of intentionality around the VC Unleashed community and bringing resources and our community to Oakland, where I think that this is an incredible city that deserves opportunity. And so we're like, let's create that opportunity. But we did everything from like agentic payments to thinking about how do you land your first enterprise partnership to what's the infrastructure that needs to build for an agentic future to take place? Like what happens if venture capital doesn't work?
Yeah.
Like what is your next job? To having folks like Adriana Sanmaniego, one of the partners at Cherry Rock, talk about her journey and what it meant to break into venture capital and succeed in it. And I think at the core, the thread there was just authenticity. Like, how do you be authentic in a space that feels safe? And I think that's something that you feel throughout our community.
Well, I heard you also say in the beginning, it's all about personal curiosity. So you create the space in which you want to grow as well. You're not coming in there as this authoritarian of like, hey, I have the information and this is a workshop for everybody else. You're going in like, hey, I don't know much like on my shows. I don't know much. I'm going to pull in the experts and others who have questions. And it sounds like it just kind of organically grows at that point. And then you get buy-in from people because they're contributing. So you create this space where it's like, I'm not coming here to be the student. I'm here to actually contribute and have a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And that plays out naturally with, I think, people who have a lot of empathy.
Yes.
And just chatting with you two before the show, I feel that is what you both have. And I see that a lot of founders who do well have that big piece of empathy with them. And they go to market with a product that fits a pain point rather than just goes with a great idea. Yeah. So you've both done it. So really quick, just for soundbite purposes, if you give 1, 2, or 3, like, okay, 1, do this to build community, 2, do this, what would they be? Number 1, I heard you both say, be curious. What else is on the radar in terms of something people can put in their psyche and go, okay, I need to make motions on that now?
I think finding the right audience is pretty important because as I told you guys, it all started organically with a WhatsApp group. And this WhatsApp group grew kind of crazy with all sorts of audience. So pretty quickly there were some founders in the mix, some people from corporate, some older folks like, partners. And then it came to a point where we had to cut that. So, and then we draw a very specific persona. Some people were sad that they were kicked out of the community, but the ones that stayed, we created an environment where, again, it's a safe space. It's a space where they can create, a vulnerability and actually share. So I think this is really important. Probably a second thing would be once you have the right audience, also create a space where they can share.
Environment.
Yeah, exactly. The right environment to do so. And also try and find the right people who are going to give back. So a lot of communities do that where they ask, what do you want? And what can you give? So it's a gives and gets relationship,
Oh, that's good. Michelle.
I think I would the first thing is like, how do you constantly pay it forward? Right. I think I often think about like we are standing on the shoulders of giants. There's so many people beforehand that have opened doors, that have made sure that the road has existed so we can be here today. And the other thing that I think a lot about is like access, right? I think one of the reasons VC Unleashed is has been able to succeed is like our community has evolved.
Wait, just real quick, when you say access, because that's a powerful world. When you say access, and I'm hearing also giving back, is it you're coming looking for access or you're coming to provide access? Like if I'm a community member, I'm not only looking to connect with somebody, obviously, because I need resources, I need a place to go, but I have something to give and I want to give people access as well. So is it a both direction access door?
So I hope that when you come to a VC Unleashed event, a conference, a networking reception, or holiday party that will be here in December.
When you say here, STAK?
STAK wants to have that conversation. Yes, we'd love to be hosted by y'all. But my hope is that you will meet an investor who is looking to fund your company, or an investor who is looking to invest in your business. That is the kind of access that I'm looking. I want money to actually be moved from one to the other.
Okay. So access, anything else top of mind?
I think those are the two.
Yeah, those are really, really good. All right. So I want to turn a little bit. We talked about building community. We talked about passion. We talked about building community. We're going to talk a little bit. You're going to drop in a little bit on how to build corporate partnerships, because that's really kind of your wheelhouse now. And both of you are actually really good on that. So maybe we'll pivot there, but also we're going to talk a little bit about Series A readiness. But before we get to that, I got to ask you, you've both been into on the VC side of the table, raised a lot of money. What do startup founders need to know from your perspective of what it takes to raise? So I know, Michelle, you're looking from the Series A perspective. Martin, you're early stage, but just generally the raising process. And you can even speak to the perspective of a solo GP, right? What, in your experience, could you share with our audience that is key to raising or being fundable if you're a startup?
I think two things, and it's going to resonate with you, but every VC has their checkboxes. Basically, when they're talking to founders, they're vetting, in each category, how the startup ranks in terms of, size of the market, team, product, competitive differentiation. So there's a lot of boxes to check. I think it's important for the founder to know exactly how the VC thinks. So the second thing is actually one of my favorite VC books is Secrets of Sand Hill Road, which actually explains to founders the business model of venture capital. So I think it's really important for founders to understand how a VC firm works in order to actually also create empathy for them and understand that, early...
For the VC.
For the VC, and understanding how they work, how they return money. And it is a business, 10-year cycles. So, actually talking and understanding how the firm works, I think it's really, really important. So then you as a founder can also interview them and understand their thesis.
So we talk a lot about founder fit. Right. Yeah. Where investors look for that right leadership in the early stage or even later stages. But what you're suggesting, and we've heard this, quite often lately, is it's the founder needs to do just as much diligence on investor fit as the investor does on 100%. Founder fit. Yeah.
It's all about thesis. And unfortunately, the odds in venture capital are pretty low in terms of we speak to 100 companies and usually you're going to invest 1 to 3. So it's 1 to 3%. Do we like this? No. Ideally, we would speak to the ones that we are actually going to invest in the end of the funnel. So it's a really hard job to say no 99% of the time. And some VCs that have been doing this for a long time, they actually do this in the most graceful way where they create empathy for the founder. They keep the conversation going, but it's a no fit. And for the founder, it's the same thing. You're going to talk to dozens of funds, and if you find one or two that are going to invest in your company, it's because you found a fit. So it's a problem of matchmaking.
Yeah,
in the end of the day.
Same thing. And again, moving towards fundability or fundraising. Michelle, what has been your experience?
Yeah, and maybe I'll pull on a thread that you talked about earlier is empathy for fund managers. So one of the interesting things at being at a fund to fund, which is a limited partner, a different kind of limited partners. You have endowment funds, pension funds, fund to funds. And so we have to go out and raise our own capital, right? And so we're constantly fundraising too, from large institutionals, from pension funds, from endowment funds, from big institutional firms. And then we allocate that capital into general partnerships or VC firms. And so then you get to see, and now at a VC fund, I get to see how challenging it is. That $172 million that we raised, we've had hundreds and hundreds of conversations with institutional firms. They've said no. And so in some ways, like Cherry Rock Capital is also a startup. Like every founder that we meet, we need for them to win. We need to win. We need to make sure that we return top decile returns so that we can go raise the $250 million fund too. So we can actually go prove some of those things out. And I think if you're able to like contextualize some of that, hopefully it gives some understanding to the founder where like at the end of the day, I mentioned this earlier, but like capital is kind of a commodity at this point. And unless you're like really need it, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of these relationships between a founder and an investor, they last more than the average marriage in the United States. Like if I'm your investor, I'm going to be a lead check, usually $6 to $10 million, and I'm going to have a board seat, and I'm going to make sure like you are like like the thing that I care about most in the world is going to be this company.
Yeah.
And making sure it succeeds. So like making sure that relationship is really strong is really important.
Yeah.
And I think one of the kindest things an investor can do is very quickly get to a no, right? As someone, so one of the things I did before being an investor was I was a founder myself. I built a business into Latin America. I spent time in Mexico, Paraguay, and Peru. And being able to understand what my real pipeline looked like and for customers I was going after to tell me no, that helped me allocate my time properly. And as a founder, you basically have 3 jobs, right? Your job is to sell to customers, to raise your next financing round, and then to hire the right people to help you build your business.
Yeah. And to the getting to know really quickly, it builds respect a lot more. I mean, you think it hurts, but in the end, you have that respect and you trust them a lot more. So what may have been a no this time around, it could be a yes the next time around when, things are working correctly or there's a fit.
It's always a not now.
Yeah, it's always a not now, right? Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. I like that. But talk a little, Michelle, I guess transition into that point, because you're also heavily into the Series A stage. We talk on this show and also on Silicon Valley Impact a lot about early stages. What does it look like to be fundable? What does it look like to have traction, all that. But when it comes to Series A, which a lot of startups are starting to knock on the door of, what are you looking for?
Yeah. So the way to think about Cherry Rock Capital, we're a Series A and B firm. The majority of our investments are going to be at the A. I'd love to meet founders after they've closed their financing round. I said earlier, like your 3 jobs as a founder is raise, sell, and hire. And so right after you close that seed, come talk to me. I'm here. You can find me anywhere and would love to have a conversation. And I'm usually looking at businesses when I'm ready to invest that are $2.5 to $5 million of annual recurring revenue. It's an important number. That benchmark has moved from that $1 million ARR to that 2.5 to 5. And also looking at companies that are growing 200% year over year. And gross margins have changed a little bit due to cost of compute and some of the different business models that I'm seeing, but usually 80% gross margins. At this point of the financing, you should really think about our capital as acceleration capital. As you have a product, you are starting to have your product go from like pilots to production. Like, how do you leverage the likes of Stacy Brown-Philpott, of Seda Howard, who's also one of our partners, of Adriana Sanmaniego, of my network, to help you land those next contracts that then get you to $10 million of ARR to go raise that Series B, right? And so those are some of the things that I look at. And some of the mistakes that I've seen as I meet to founders at this stage is like, I come from a finance background. I've worked at an institutional finance firm and now at kind of a growth seat. But not having a good finance professional within your company it's really important to have that, right?
Yeah.
And that oftentimes I'll meet founders that don't fully understand their gross margins or don't understand their monthly burn. And like, if you don't understand how your business is operating, like you're about to raise, the average Series A right now is what, $10 to $15 million. The average Series B is $25 to $40 million. That's a lot of capital.
Yeah.
And you need to have a good understanding of the business.
So part of this early stage fundability is, do you know how to attract talent? And is that talent balanced across your founding team? And one of those needs to be really good with the numbers. Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
Great. One of the first hires that I see at the Series A is an excellent chief finance officer or some kind of VP of finance or like a senior finance hire. And that's, I think, where Cherry Rock can also be very helpful.
I love all the resources that you guys are providing the startups. And I think not a lot of venture firms they just provide the money. They don't go that extra mile to provide the community, the extra assets, the accessibility that it sounds like you guys really put a big effort into, and the putting relationships first. The fact that you're saying that, well, once you close on your seed round, come talk to me, because that relationship needs to be built up. It's not just like, now I need to be interviewed for money. It's no, let's have a conversation to see if you're on the right track and you're willing, with these events and this outreached hand of support, you're willing to help even before you're needed. And that's how, I think that's a lot of how the startup should be thinking. It's, where can I connect and start building relationships before I need something? Because then they're more likely to your point earlier, Martin, is they're more likely to contribute themselves.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just always a take game. There's this give. Like, that's why I'm heavy on give to market. What can you provide? Because you're really looking to, solve a problem, not just with your product, but your company is going to define, the industry.
Yeah.
So,
and one word that we haven't said yet, but I love, is the co-opetition. So this is a big thing in venture capital, because you're fighting for the deals, but you're always co-investing too. So you have your VC buddies, from other funds that you co-invest with, and then you share deal flow. Sometimes if it's too competitive of a deal, you're gonna, keep it to yourself. So I think also what I saw from the community at Emerging VC Fellows is that.
So real quick, the audience right now is going, what did he say? You said a play on competition.
Co-petition. It's cooperation and competition at the same time.
I wanted everyone to hear that, because I love where you're going with this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically at Emerging VC Fellows, what we built, because the ecosystem was so new, and I think by default we were more collaborative than competitive, we ended up building a lot of resources for the community. So we launched VC Radar, which is the largest mapping of VCs in Latin America. Maybe you heard of it in the past. It's pretty old now, but basically we mapped all the investment theses of the funds. Because for us as funds, if I come to the market and say exactly what I'm looking for as you just pitch your fund, it's going to be better for us, because it's not a secret. I want to be talking to the founders that I have fit, that I have more chances of, the 1% odds to convert. And so we were able to create a flywheel where the funds come forward and say what their theses are. And then this became one of the best resources for founders to find the right fit. But also like VC toolkit for founders, creating, how to build your deck, how to reach out to VCs, how to structure your CRM, how to create FOMO on VCs too, how to operate, the industry too.
Yeah, it's entire messaging. And so let's talk a little bit, because this is where I think you two can really feed off of each other in terms of creating partnerships with those corporate partnerships. And I can just leave the room if you want me to while you guys geek out on this. But talk a little bit more to our audience, who are founders who need those partnerships. How do they get access to even knowing who to talk to when they're looking for those corporate partnerships? What is that journey like? Where do they begin? Because again, there's an incredible amount of smart people in Silicon Valley and the world over. They're the subject matter experts building a company, but not a lot of them have this extra layer of pre-existing partnerships. They know the market, but wow, these partnerships. Where does someone begin when it comes to developing partnerships?
Yeah, I think if you're a founder in B2B enterprise, you're faced with a big cold start problem, where you're going to sell to Fortune 100 companies, the largest companies in the world. And there's a big hurdle in terms of, client readiness, product readiness, in order to sell to those companies. I'm speaking, knowing Itaú, which is the largest bank in Latin America. There's so many hurdles for this readiness, and I think something in the earlier stages that is really important to find is a good design partner. Trying to find who's going to be the first client that is willing to sit down with you, give a lot of feedback on your product, and then start developing things with you. I think the FDE model, also the forward deployed engineers, is also something that is helping. Because it's almost something like a consultation where you work together almost as a service to build the product together. So I think this, for earlier stage founders, I think it's really important. Once you have your first clients, I think it's being okay with having a long sales cycle, but also being very strategic in how to deploy the land and expand model. So every corporation is going to be different. Cubo has 70 different corporations, not only financial corporations, but energy, logistics, mobility, and they operate really differently. I think the good founders are able to adapt their sales strategy to land in the corporation the right way. Sometimes if you're selling an AI product, is with the head of AI, and then it's gonna ripple effect into what's the right area is. Sometimes it's like the technical department. So knowing exactly where to land in the company, and also having a model inside where you can start small and then grow big in a way that is tied to your contracts. It's a seamless scale and land and expand. I think founders who do that are really successful.
So I want, Michelle, you to tap in on this as well. I'm going to have a question once you get done about early stage companies. Are obviously, it's a very competitive space to get corporate attention. And a lot of right now startups can't even define clearly their unique selling proposition. Yeah. And so we're going to come back to that. Like, how do they really stand out in front of, the corporate eyes? But Michelle, tap in on this. You're smiling. I must have hit on something, but go ahead and add on to this.
So one thing that I would advise every single founder, especially speaking to me or any other, after you raise your seed, go speak to Series A firms and basically make them earn your business, right? And when I say that, you should ask for customer introductions. You should ask for any kind of support that you need. You should ask from them. Because again, it's capital and resources that a founder provides. And I think one of the things that I can very quickly suss out, like understanding, do you understand who your buyer is? Who is the person that's going to be the economic decision maker within the organization? Is it your chief human resource officer? Are you doing a product-led growth? Are you going directly to the C-level executive? The way that our team has Stacy built out, was at Google for like 20 years before being at TaskRabbit, and again sits on publicly traded companies. So like the level of relationships we have are C-level executives that we usually send an email to, or we call and we're like, hey, can we make an introduction? And we've queued off a couple of those this week for businesses that we're actively looking to win, or financing rounds that we're looking to win. So make your investor work for it. Understand your economic buyer, I think, would be the next one. And I think that's some of the advice that I would give.
Okay. You guys okay back there? I hear a lot of crashing. Anyone? You guys must have a question. Did anything top of mind for you guys resonate? So I'm asking the team right now. They're in here, leaning forward, taking pictures. But yet, I know there's 4 of you back here. Is there anything top of mind hearing this conversation? You would obviously be thinking from an audience perspective, who's sitting in the front row. But is there anything that's kind of resonating with you guys that I'm missing?
Yeah, one question I had as well,
the
one thing was, you guys both mentioned that you had experience as founders, and I'm wondering, where does VC play a role in that? And it's like VC kind of a middle stage that one day you're going to use as another launch pad for another venture, or is VC kind of like the final destination for you guys?
That's crazy. That's a crazy. He asked us if we would eventually go start another company. As I'm very committed to my job, I do want to I'm kidding. Breaking into venture capital was like probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
This feels like a dream come true, especially working at the stage that I'm working at. But I think if anything, it gives me empathy. It's really, really, really hard to build a business.
Yeah.
And like oftentimes you're thinking like, how do I pay payroll? Like, how do I make sure that my team is taken care of? How do I make sure that the culture is strong? But also like, how do I continue to iterate on this product and like leverage the forward deployed engineers and like their knowledge? Like, there's so many problems at the same time that like.
Well, I think you and I were talking about before you came in is I've heard it said once, and I totally agree that VCs are a service provider.
Yeah.
They provide capital. They provide resources. And so I think you said it earlier, Michelle, that you kind of are a startup. And so the DNA in terms of a founder and a venture capitalist is not too far removed. And I think that's why there's so many similarities between the two. But upon first look, you think they're on the different ends of the spectrum, and they're not. You're both building. You're both looking to drive revenue. You're in the game. And so though you're called something else, right, there's a lot of similarities in order to be successful in this game.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and what we mentioned earlier is that, some founders might think that VCs are just sitting on a pile of money and doing the easy job of like betting and finding the founders.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you're lucky to be funded. But most of the time, also cold start problem with even harder challenge when you're raising your first fund. Because think about it. If I decide to be a fund manager myself and raise my first fund, what do I have to sell? Basically, I'm asking for a blank check. I don't have any product. I don't have nothing. You're betting on me and my ability to find a founder. So the cold start problem is real.
Yeah, deal flow is kind of like your customer base, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I would kind of think of us as small businesses more than like startups, right? Like, some firms, their strategy is to grow to massive AUM, but mine is like, how do I make real concentrated investments in companies that I deeply believe that are going to return the fund?
Yeah.
And like we're constantly, so one of the things at Cherry Rock that we're doing is like, we are building Cherry, which is our operating system, and leveraging AI. And it's like, right, there's product innovation that's happening. There's deep connections with founders that's happening. And like, to your point, it is a cold start problem. And like, you've kind of seen these three flavors of investors or investment professionals go raise funds. Folks who were actually very successful founders, who had an IPO or some sort of exit. I would call them the spinouts, like folks from Andreessen, from Bessemer, who have gone out to raise really large funds. And then folks who are like new on the market. And like, I think that third bucket's the hardest.
Yeah. Because it's so good. It's so good. So I usually ask everybody, what got you into it? We did tap into that a little bit, right? We're in an early stage in your life. Was there a mentor? Was your family, business owners? And we're going to talk a little bit about what's next for you. And it kind of goes to the question that was asked earlier about what is this for? And we talked about that, I think, in the reason why we love this. So it all kind of comes together. But I have a question that I have been geeking out on for the last 6 months. I've been heavy on understanding founders that bootstrap. So when a VC isn't needed, so it's like the anti-VC pitch. I want to see in early stage companies them get traction without first trying to just be validated through a raise. What have you seen, or what do you believe or have thought of in terms of bootstrapping that would help our audience not be so obsessed on fundraising, but getting customers first? Drop in anywhere on that, because I think this question isn't explored enough.
I absolutely love this question. I think we should be talking more about it, because there's this expectation that you're going to be a founder and you have to raise from VC. You're going to be your PR and it's going to scale exponentially. But nowadays, I think you're closing the gap between what you can build with less resources. And I've seen over the past 9 years, I've seen a lot of founders that had a fundraising, going on. They were road showing and everything, and they just decided to stop because their time was better spent trying to get customers. And this makes a lot of sense because that's the money you want coming into your company. This is the recurring money that is going to make your company grow equity free. And so I think a lot of founders should think about other ways to fund your business.
Yeah, I like it. Michelle?
I think one company that comes to mind is Calendly. Have folks use that? It's like a calendar.
Yeah.
So they didn't raise any capital, I think, until their Series C. And they had built a real business with real customers and were filling a real need.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, okay, let's go. And so the way that I would think about venture capital too is like it's rocket fuel.
Yeah.
If you want to go, like, again, I mentioned this, like my expectation is when I'm investing in a business, it's at $2.5 to $5 million of AR. If you're going to go raise a B, like, you're probably at $10 to $15 million of AR. That's a pretty big jump. And you're probably raising that in like 12 months. So I think it's things to think about. And I think to your point, like you've seen this kind of insane acceleration over the last like 18 to 24 months on like what you can build with Cloud Code, with Lovable. And like if you have domain expertise and understand a real problem, you can build a solution. And like venture capital is not always the best kind of capital. There is like non-dilutive grants that exist. There are small business loans. There's other kind of resources to help you build your business.
Yeah.
Even resources from the big AI labs. So they have programs to give you tokens. So a lot of, I love thinking about user proceeds because, the money flows from the VC pocket to the startup pocket. And then a lot of it goes to people's pocket. So to pay, payroll, to do a lot of hiring. In the past, a lot of it was going through to cloud services, but now you have one of the largest chunks is tokens. And I think founders can also look into the big AI labs, what kind of programs they have. I think OpenAI actually has a partnership with YC now that every YC company can get like $1 million in tokens.
Yeah.
Some companies are getting funded by, just getting money for tokens.
Yeah. I love that thinking outside the box in terms of what resources you could use to scale. But I also want to say this, we talk about funding being rocket fuel. If you love your idea and you really think it's going to make a difference to the market, you may also find out that your idea isn't this moonshot global venture, project. It may just be a local lifestyle business that you're helping a smaller market with. And so when you're bootstrapping and you can see who you're helping, you immediately get to see the scalability of your company. And you don't need to sell your soul because once you have that money and you don't go that big, now you're in trouble. It's most likely not your business anymore. But if you bootstrap and you see who you're affecting, then you know how much fuel you need to get to where you need to go. So I think that valuation is also often overlooked by early stage companies.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some founders might, start their own lifestyle business. And of course, there's something also that I love is that if you ask for advice, if you ask for money, you get advice.
Yeah.
If you ask for advice, you get money. So you might have a lifestyle business, but, in your networking, talking to people, talking to other founders, talking to investors, the best way to fundraise sometimes is when you don't have, when you're not open to fundraising. Then, the VCs start to, get crazy about it and wanting to invest. So I think this is
called preempting at that
preempting,
point.
exactly.
Like, well, actually, you're not raising? Well, actually, can I preempt this?
Exactly.
I love it. And it goes back to creating FOMO, I guess, in some people's eyes. But we've covered a lot of ground today. This has been a great conversation. So I got to ask, what's next for you guys? You're obviously building community, you're building great reputation, you're doing great work, but what's on the horizon for both of you?
I don't know about you, but I'm loving building. So I'm an engineer. I've never been technical, into coding, but now I see how much I can use these tools to first do my job, but also work on some personal projects. But I think this is really powerful. And since the start, since 2017, I built, systems for the VC. I think this is really powerful and a trend. Also, like single GPs being able to run their entire operations, alone with just vibe coded tools. So this is something that I'm, messing with. But in my new role with Cubo, with Itaú, I'm also excited about learning more about the nitty gritty of this hard journey of founders selling to big corporations and like how long the sales cycles are. And so anything that is like a big challenge, something really hard, really resonates with me, like trying to understand and solve this big problems.
Yeah. Michelle?
Very excited for this question. So the thing that I'm really excited about is I want to source and go out and lead some great investments. I've recently just built out an investment thesis around AI infrastructure. And so thinking of it in like, how do you fuel the agentic future? And I think that there's a couple of things that are happening. If you go all the way to the bottom infrastructure layer, right? You're having kind of these big conversations right now where over the last 12 months, we've had this culture of token maxing at all costs. And now folks are getting their bills. And I think Uber went through their AI budget in April, right? Most companies are having conversations. Like Meta used to have this like leaderboard of who could use the most tokens. And now that's been taken away of. Right. Like, and so like cost is now becoming an important conversation for enterprises. So the thing I'm trying to think of, like, what is software that makes hardware more efficient? And having team members that sit on publicly traded boards, compute is a really important conversation. There's been a backlog of over 2 years. So that's one thing, right? Like software that makes hardware more efficient. I've looked at a couple of edge computing companies that are interesting. The other piece around it is like this agentic futures. I think the tooling is going to look really different for AI agent, from thinking of observability to evaluations to some of the safety frameworks that we talked about. And the last thing that I'm really excited about is agentic services end to end. And so think of founders who have had real domain experience, have spent the last 15 years of their career working in HVAC and now are building the operating system for HVAC, which is a real market opportunity, or thinking about accounting and finance. Like, how do you do, like, I think that's the future, right? Like an agent will do it from beginning to end. Yeah,
it's really kind of starting to disrupt everything. And you don't know.
So calling all founders who are building in those spaces, come find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter or X now. Like, I would love to talk to you.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, that's how people can connect with you is not Twitter, but LinkedIn, find you there. How else can they connect with you? Anything else? Any other way?
Email, LinkedIn. If you're building something that you see connections to Latin America, Brazil, big banks, but also the 70 different other corporations inside Cubo, I'm happy to chat.
Yeah. And then Michelle at cherryrockcapital.com.
Putting it out there. I love it. All right, team. What did I not cover today? You guys got anything left on the table? Now you may not be able to hear them right now, but they're all saying collectively, Brian, you did an amazing job. I don't know how you do it. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. But I want to thank everybody for listening today. Great conversation today, Martin and Michelle. Really appreciate you guys coming in. A lot of fun. We'll see you all next time here on the STAK Ventures Podcast. We'll see you all soon. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Great job.
Yeah.